Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So, Heresy has released. For those of you who want the immediate warning, spoiler warning for this video. There are spoilers throughout. If you have not played Heresy, or if you have even a passing interest in Destiny's story, you should go ahead and just go ahead and play it for yourself. It's... I think the first 24 hours is very good. Granted, the first 24 hours of any content drop within a game like Destiny are bound to be filled with stuff. Things are going to be feeling a bit front-loaded, but honestly, it's a very good opening to the story, and I think that it throws some interesting things into the mix. I don't want to say any more because there will be spoilers, and just go play the damn thing, even if you have a passing interest. It's one of those things where I feel like the story is hitting important notes and beats. And, well, some of it will have its own videos because it's just that important. Anyway, before we start talking about everything else, a couple of days ago during my Heresy trailer reaction, I talked a little bit about the SAG-AFTRA strike. I actually removed that section from the video. I did everything in that section very much at the last minute, as is the case often when it comes to content this close to release. And I regret not going in with the full bout of facts. I try to make sure that I have everything at my disposal whenever I'm doing this, but when something is so last minute like this, I make assumptions sometimes, and occasionally, like this, it comes back to bite me in the ass. However, I should let you know the sentiment, for the most part with regards to supporting voice actors, is unchanged. It's merely the fact that lying blame to parties that don't necessarily need to be blamed right now was not the take, was not the call, and I just want to go ahead and be upfront with you guys on that one. I will make mistakes, astoundingly enough I'm a human being, but I'm also going to try and be honest about that. Moving on though, let's go ahead and talk about what everyone is here for with regards to the lore on things, and I want to talk about the very big first part of all of it. Talking about that cutscene that plays at the kind of apex of the first mission where you're on the Dreadnought. And, well, I guess let's ask this question, is Eris actually dead? Well, yes and no. The prevailing theory is that the cutscene that plays after the events on the Dreadnought takes place in a throne world, and if that is the case, there are people speculating that this might be Eris's throne world. Just a little bit of a thing to sort of jump in there and give it a little context. I don't think this is that. The reason why it might be Eris's throne world feels fairly obvious. Simply put, she died. Quite clearly she died. And there is a moment where she then wakes up again and is surrounded by hive architecture. Here's the thing though, as a hive god, Eris might have had something akin to this, but I think it's well worth remembering that Eris, at the height of her power, gave up all that power. And so it makes me wonder if this is really hers. Of course, the alternative to this being Eris's throne world then implies that it's someone else's that she's woken up in, and it makes me wonder even further whether the interaction she had with Xivu Arath's throne world is taking shape here. I wonder if Eris has quite literally stolen Xivu's throne world here, and I don't think I'm alone in that manner. I think if anything else it might be an explanation for the rather, well, delighted laughter that Eris had when she did eventually remove her mask and show her 3 eyes for the first time. Which, wow, didn't expect that to happen, but yeah, the mask is finally gone. Now, of course, this is not the only aspect of Heresy's story. There's a lot more going on right now, and that is clearly some dramatic irony for us. Meanwhile, the rest of the characters are still mourning and are still going through the process of thinking about what the death of Eris means. As for us, it means that we're just hitting back harder at the forces of the Dreadnought, and in particular against the Subjugator who took her life. The fact that the Subjugator leads a group called the Reshaped, or has Reshaped as part of their title, leads me to a few interesting conclusions that are only pushed forward more by the Tablet of Ruin. Now, for those of you who do not know, this is apparently the Tablet of Ruin that was recovered from Savathun's throne world. How that is the case, and how it got back here, I'm not totally sure. There's more that we still don't know about the chronology of where that thing was and when. However, it's in our possession now, and the Tablet of Ruin, as I anticipated, is a key part to the story. and the Path of Resolve is a key part to the story as well. But more importantly, I think the lore tab and the flavor text of the Tablet of Ruin are some of the most important bits of lore we've received since the Witness's defeat, and possibly in all of Destiny. Yet again, it is a communication from a figure that acts relatively familiarly with us. And yet, this time it's actually named. The Winnower is named as the one in the flavor text, and is quoting directly. It almost feels as though at this point, we genuinely do have an attempt to reach out and contact us. And as many of us can see, there is a malicious force that is inhabiting the Dreadnought. This is something that I want to talk about in its own video, but it does appear that one of the major forces behind everything we're facing in Heresy might well have the Winnower's influence behind it. I don't know if that's really what's going on, but if it is, we need to be aware of what's happening, and the lore tab on the Tablet of Ruin, I think, is the first step. For those of you who do not know, by the way, the Dreadnought is covered in not just the stuff we saw in the stream, but also in a new infestation of the Dread. And that leads us to a very interesting point. The enemies that we face on board the Dreadnought, the Dread in particular, are using what are known as eversion anchors. Eversion is something that the Hive did to the Dreadnought long ago in the act of making it part of Oryx's throne world. It is the act of turning things inside out. Oryx's throne world was turned inside out to put it in real space when previously, like all other throne worlds, it was a part of the Ascendant Realms. This was made as a means of fortifying it within the Dreadnought. However, these eversion anchors look as though they will be able to bleed planets into the Ascendant Plane, and they all lead back to the Dreadnought. This is what's really a question for us. What is the reason for these eversion anchors going out? What are the Dread doing here? What purpose do they serve? The eversion anchors are being dropped all over the place. We already found one in the EDZ, and we also found another within the Dreaming City. So, it appears that lots of these areas are being dropped in across the entirety of the system, and I imagine that we'll destabilize more as time goes on. My big question, because this reaches into a very obscure lore topic, is this. Is there a difference between eversion and upending? I don't know if there is, and I'm not so sure that we'll get evidence of that anytime soon, but who knows? I feel as though this may well have been one of the powers that has always been at the sort of fingertips of our enemies, and we've never really been able to connect the dots about the similarities of them just so far. The ability to move things between dimensions is something that is cited by Savathun in the Witch Queen campaign as the key power of the ability to take, and as we learn more from the Path of Resolve, maybe we will be able to do more of this ourselves. And of course, that leads me to what I think is probably one of the most under-noted points with regards to the lore right now, which is the Eyes of Terror and the infestation of the new Taken on board the Dreadnought. The Taken that we see are known as Dire Taken, and they are different. They not only have different abilities, but they seem more ferocious. Somehow the models of them, even as you fight them, seem genuinely sharper. And I don't just mean that in terms of the idea that they are more vicious to fight. They are more jagged. Something about them is different. And what's more, they use powers that other Taken have not had access to. We've seen some Taken shoot weapons powered by stasis, but we've never seen them use Strand, another direct power of the darkness. We've also never seen them wield the same kind of power and weapons that they have on display right now. It's interesting, to say the very least, and it comes along with a new aberration, something we've seen all over the Dreadnought, but probably shouldn't look at for too long. Eyes. Eyes that are just all over the place, surrounding the anchors, surrounding areas of the Dreadnought. They give you a debuff called Suffocating Terror. Suffocating Terror, I assume, cannot stack to 10, otherwise you will die. However, the interesting thing is the way these work mechanically. If you turn away from the eyes and do not look into them, you will not suffer terror in the same way. I don't believe you can destroy them or destabilize them, but if you do attack them, they look directly at you. This is one of those moments at which we really need to understand more about what's happening here, but there is another force out there, something behind the dread. And, well, if it's all connected to the vast swath of tentacles that are starting to regrow from the dreadnought and which are writhing within the ascendant plane, again, who knows whether this is something to do with Arca or whether it is something to do with the Winnower. Either way, we still have seen no sign of the Echo, which tells me that we still don't have the full picture of everything. I'll continue exploring the Dreadnought, I'll continue making notes on the story, but I would say this: look out for things that you find in the Dreadnought that might give context. In particular, one small bit that we already have are the bits of dialogue coming from Xivu Arath, Savathun, and Oryx. Around the Dreadnought you can find each of their hive sigils, and if you interact, or rather move close to one of them, you will hear dialogue. The interesting thing is that this dialogue almost universally comes from the Books of Sorrows, Oryx's recollection of hive histories. It does appear to tell us which bits and pieces of it we can absolutely verifiably say are true. And the reason I say that is because it's recited line for line in some instances, meaning that the memory that Oryx gave back to us and planted down within those calcified fragments is accurate for at least some of it. Now granted, the Books of Sorrow on their own miss a whole load of information. They say nothing of Rulk or the Witness, they say nothing of Zeta, they say nothing of the pact that eventually brought the worm into Savathun or Sathona's possession. But what they do tell us now is that they are a perspective given genuinely, for the most part, though there are some passages that may still be full of lies, and I imagine that particularly later on, Oryx has done his best to make his history favourable to his legacy. Who knows what happens on that front, but that's the early bit that you can investigate and you can find more for yourself. There are some people who are kind of down on the beginning of Heresy, and you know what? I completely disagree. I don't care if I get flack for this particular bit. I'm actually really liking where things are now. I know some people dislike the gameplay that you find in the Nether. I enjoy it, and I say that as someone who is running healing for my team. It is something where it genuinely feels new. More importantly than all of that, though, there is a real sense of questions and mystery in the air. Lots of things are afoot and moving all at once, and it appears that there are still elements to the story that haven't necessarily been evoked or involved. What we do and where this leads us is unknown. There is a problem with the episodic format where occasionally it picks things up and then sort of doesn't do much with them, but I think that Bungie has a chance to tie together a really neat story here. Now granted, we don't know how long this is going to run for, but fingers crossed, everything works out better than it did in Revenant and Echoes. Who knows? Personally though, after 24 hours I have a very good first impression. And, well, yeah, there's more to be found of course, more to be said, but this feels nice, so far. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. Also, do note, I know that the Sundered Doctrine trailer has just released. I'll be getting a video out on that tomorrow, as everyone is about to go into the dungeon. I'm also going to try and make a quick video on the Tablet of Ruin, because that is by far the most important piece of lore that has dropped within the opening hours of Heresy. All this is to say, don't go anywhere, there's a lot I still need to cover, and that's not even accounting for the fact that the dungeon will release soon, and when it does release, or rather just moments before it releases, I'll be on the pre-show for the Dungeon Zone with Evan F. and CB Gray. If you want to go ahead and catch me there as we give just a few little lore predictions, then you can find the streams linked down below. It will be a variety of links across YouTube and Twitch. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Know that, as per usual, your viewership is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Parodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.